Welcome to the final lecture on interspecies combat. While I am sure that most of you are anxious to begin your reviews for examinations and are eagerly awaiting your orders and assignments, I ask that you focus your concentration entirely on today's lesson. Over the course of our instruction cycle, you have surely noted that most species tend to behave in somewhat similar and predictable fashions. Our lessons have mostly focused on particular cultural deviations and battle tactics in order to give you some small measure of advantage in your dealings with particular species. This lecture will focus on humans, and this species must be addressed in an entirely different fashion. Today, I will speak on the topic of what the humans call a distress signal and the entirely human concept of reinforcements. Tormac addressed the assembled on how you would aggress a Percellian battle group when you possess numerical and weapon superiority. Yes, lead instructor. Tormac addresses the assembled as instructed. When aggressing a Percellian battle group when possessing numerical and weapon superiority, engage a single target as determined by tactical analysis and destroy it. Then pursue the closest fleeing member of the remainder of the battle group and destroy it. Pursue targets as available thereafter and destroy them. When pursuit is no longer possible, transmit all data and await orders. Very good, Tormac. Gelia addressed the assembled on how to best engage threat forces. Yes, lead instructor. Gelia addresses the assembled as instructed. When engaging threat forces, identify threat vessel furthest from other threat vessels. Engage and destroy. If possessing numerical and weapon superiority to a group of threat vessels, engage and destroy. Excellent, Gelia. Lyriac addressed the assembled and explain under what conditions an isolated vessel or battle group of any species should not be engaged, assuming numerical and weapon superiority, either in space or in ground combat. Lyriac addresses the lead instructor. Forgive my ignorance, lead instructor. I cannot obey as commanded. I am ignorant as to any circumstance in which an isolated vessel or battle group of any species should not be engaged, assuming numerical and weapon superiority, either in space or in ground combat. I request appropriate censure and penalties as the lead instructor deems fit for my failure. None will be required, Lyriac. You may be seated. Your ignorance exists only because we have not yet commenced instruction on the final species in our lesson series. I offer my sincere apologies for asking a question to which I fully expected no answer, but I felt it necessary to fully illustrate the seriousness of our topic. I suspect that all of you may have felt that question was ridiculous. While of course you could not give any outward indication, I too was once in training, and I sympathize with those who may have wondered if your lead instructor was having a moment of mental defectiveness. I assure you, I was not. 10 cycles passed, our forces engaged a human battle group. They isolated a Moscow-class cruiser and commenced bombardment. Our forces had twice the numerical superiority and tenfold weapon superiority. The entire human battle group held formation and engaged. Within a tenth of a rotation, a second human battle group jumped in. What is more, even with the addition of this new battle group, our forces still had numerical and fivefold weapon superiority. Victory was achieved, but losses were sustained 20 times what the tactical analysis predicted. 5 cycles passed, a Karmak-class cruiser engaged a human merchant vessel. Almost immediately, a Moscow-class human battlecruiser jumped into within weapons range and engaged our cruiser, destroying it. Bal, I admire your discipline, but I have been instructing long enough to know when a student is struggling to believe something. You may address the assembled. Yes, lead instructor. Bal addresses the assembled as instructed. Bal is honored to receive the instruction of the lead instructor and is grateful for the lessons imparted, which will allow Bal to serve the Empire as a loyal officer of the fleet. Bal knows the lead instructor's lessons to be true and necessary to this function. Bal, I have no doubt as to the sincerity of your words, but in order for our dialogue to best serve the intent of this lesson, I require your absolute candor. So, I order you to address the assembled with your true and complete thoughts on what I just said, and I guarantee no sanction or censure, and I further order that none of the assembled are ever to repeat your words to any not here assembled. I remind the assembled that I have the authority to deem any part of these lessons to be classified at the highest level, and I do so designate the remainder of this lecture thus. Bal, unless your next words are direct treason to the Emperor, you may speak freely with absolute impunity. Insult my parentage if you must, but you will address the assembled frankly, whatever distress it may cause you. Yes, lead instructor. Ball addresses the assembled as instructed. The lead instructor's statements defy all known military doctrine and logic itself. They are reminiscent of tales told by aged naval crewmen in states of intoxication. The Moscow-class battlecruiser is known to be a state-of-the-art ship of war, and while theoretically well able to defeat the Karmak-class cruiser, all space combat carries significant risk of outcomes other than what is assumed based on tactical analysis. The captain of the Moscow-class battlecruiser would be aware of the possibility of losing his ship to well-placed shots to his reactor core or other tactics known to any fleet captain used to defeat vessels outclassing their own. Further, the Moscow-class battlecruiser would surely sustain damage and possible losses, even in the event of decisive victory or during the retreat of the Karmak-class cruiser. No sane captain would risk such a ship to protect a merchant vessel. Thank you, Ball. You speak truly and display an admirable grasp of military strategy and tactics. I commend your obedience of orders in the face of discomfort or uncertainty, and such ability will serve you well as a fleet commander someday. You may be seated. I want you all to reflect on his last statement. No sane captain. Indeed, in our first encounters with humans, it was presumed that many of them were insane, or that their fleets lacked discipline or proper understanding of strategy and tactics. Indeed, even understanding what we do now, many consider them to be somewhat insane. Even if they are, it does not make them any less dangerous. On the contrary, it makes them more so. I promised to introduce to you the human concept of the distress signal, and reinforcements I will do so now. When threatened, either as an individual, or in their ships, or in battle, humans will summon other humans to assist them. What is more, when alerted to danger, humans tend to converge on it, rather than flee. When faced with defeat, their solution is not automatically to disengage. Often, it is to send more humans. Remember also what Ball said about outcomes other than what is predicted by tactical analysis. With humans, this is an understatement. When engaging humans, you are not only engaging the human targets you have selected, but potentially all other humans physically able to join the engagement. Yes, join the engagement. The human term is reinforcement. While standard military doctrine states that when presented with an engagement without significant odds of victory, disengagement is the proper course, and if impossible, partial disengagement should be attempted. Most battles involve initiating an engagement with significant odds of success and inflicting maximum damage during the enemy's disengagement. Human battle doctrine is different. Tarlac, I acknowledge your request to ask a question. You may address the instructor. Yes, lead instructor. Tarlac addresses the instructor as instructed. Tarlac is honored and grateful for the opportunity to have his ignorance corrected by the lead instructor and begs forgiveness from the instructor and the assembled for his interruption to the lecture. Lead instructor, could not the problem with humans summoning additional forces to engagements be solved by jamming communications prior to or during engagement? Outstanding question, Tarlac. This is something we have attempted. Unfortunately, human vessels and military units, and even individual members of the species, retain low-level constant communication signals. Interruption of such signals is automatically interpreted as a distress signal. Even if such jamming were engaged prior to a distress signal being sent, it results in the immediate arrival of human forces, often in greater number than a normal distress signal. Remember the merchant vessel that was defended by a Moscow-class cruiser. Our intelligence has verified an incident involving a malfunction of another such vessel's communications device. An entire subgroup of warships jumped directly into weapons range of the vessel within moments of the malfunction, and another group of 3 aid vessels arrived immediately after. Now, let me see if I can predict the next question. Since jump drives and instantaneous subspace communications outrange scanning capabilities by a nearly infinite margin, how can you possibly predict how many humans you can expect to be engaging? Short answer: you can't. There is no way to know how many human vessels are in range and available to join an engagement. Further, there is no discernible pattern to how humans prioritize what assistance to provide under what circumstances. Sometimes no help arrives, sometimes entire battlegroups drop into orbit when a human civilian becomes lost on a forest trek on Amateur. In that example, it is theorized that advanced orbital scanning was requested and the commander did not want to split his battlegroup to dispatch a single ship to locate the lost human. Nevertheless, when in danger, humans summon other members of their species to their aid, and that aid is often in the form of overwhelming force. In fact, it is actually codified into both their laws and customs that distress signals must be responded to in some measure whenever possible. Humans have even been known to join engagements of allied species, regardless of whether or not that allied species is committing itself to a decisive victory or disengaging. Whenever you are dealing with humans, or even friends of humans, you must be prepared for the nearly instantaneous arrival of any number of additional forces. You must also not expect retreat. Make no mistake, humans do retreat, but they have a saying nearly universal amongst all of their subcultures. Leave no human behind. They will delay a retreat and continue fighting to rescue their wounded or evacuate damaged vessels. In any engagement with humans, you are encouraged to consider adding 50% odds of catastrophic defeat to whatever your tactical analysis indicates. You are also encouraged to completely remove the analysis variables related to pursuit in the event of disengagement. Do not pursue fleeing human vessels. They are buying time, and you should expect a battle group to jump in between you and your quarry. A human battle group is never alone. A human ship, any human ship, is never alone. An individual human is never alone. If you so much as detect a possible human on any ship you scan, you should presume you will be engaging a human fleet if you engage that vessel. As a final illustration of this principle, I will relate to you an intelligence report from less than a cycle ago. A human male on Amateur visited a local entertainment establishment and became intoxicated. He was accosted by 5 local citizens who decided to commit violence against him and relieve him of his possessions. The human activated a personal distress signal, and an orbiting human cruiser vaporized all 5 from orbit, with no actual communications other than that signal. The cruiser received the signal, scanned the source, assessed the situation, acquired targeting locks, and directed their energy weapons to his aid. If this seems like madness, that is understandable. It is also verified fact. I am releasing to you selected battle reports, intelligence briefings, and other data relating to humans. Please review these with full concentration. Remember them. Keep them in your personal data stores for the entirety of your service. Although some are highly classified, given the special nature of the human species, I have arranged for clearance for you all to possess these particular data files. The examples I have shared are but a select few of many, and it is important for you to understand the threat to the forces all of you will soon command. Should any of you request private counsel on this matter, it will be granted without question. I ask all of you to set aside any trepidation you may have about making such a request. This is a special case, and no record of your request will be noted, and the private counsel session will be completely classified, with no records kept in your files. Glory to the Empire. You're dismissed. Author's name and the link to original text in the description. Consider tapping the thumbs up and pressing the subscribe button if you enjoyed this video. And please join our channel.